Hi everyone, thanks for watching. You can support our work on our website ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, BitChute and Brighteon. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To be sure not to miss any of our shows, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website ageoftruth.tv.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's the 12th of November 2021. This is part 2 of our special series featuring a special gentleman with the most incredible and eye-opening life story. He's an actor, singer, performer, businessman, and former casino owner in Las Vegas. He refers to himself as the Godfather of Hollywood, and he has released a book with the title Hollywood Godfather. He began his acting career in the legendary motion picture The Godfather from 1972. And privately, he has been associated with and worked for the Mafia and some of the most infamous, notorious, and well-known mob dons in history. There is so much more to cover today in part 2, in what will be yet another truly unforgettable interview with Gianni Russo. From Copenhagen, Denmark, and hello and welcome to part 2 of our fascinating interview with Mr. Gianni Russo, now a good friend to the show. It was wonderful to deliver part 1 on our channel, and it was a wonderful response, and we are so happy to have you with us again. Thank you for joining us, Gianni.
No, please, my pleasure. I have to get to Copenhagen.
You really, really must. And when you do, I'll show you around. So definitely, please make that happen soon. It would be wonderful. Then we could do a table talk. I know that it's much better face to face, and we could do a really, really good show and get more in depth.
I always tell people, don't invite me because I'll show up, you know.
I'm serious. I am really serious. So we really want you here. So make it happen soon. It would be great. So, but there's so much to talk about, and we are here with part 2. I mean, we could not fit all of that in that first interview we did, which was eye-opening, amazing, controversial, and every label you can put on it because your life story is incredible. But there were some really outrageous things we didn't get to talk about. So let's get right down to the nitty-gritty.
Please.
You had this amazing casino in Las Vegas. I guess was it in the 70s or the 80s?
80s.
The 80s. And
I was building one, in the 80s. Yeah, no, I had a club also in the Tropicana Hotel early on, but it was attached to their casino. And that club was opened by Elvis Presley. State Street was opened by Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis for the whole weekend. So that was a tremendous success immediately. And I closed it in 89, and I think you know why.
I think I know why, but I don't think that all of our viewers know why. And this is such an incredible story, because what happened was that you killed a man in your casino. Please tell that story, because it wasn't just a guest or somebody who wanted to gamble. It was a very, very special guest connected to one of the major mob dons in history, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I want to clarify to your audience, the only reason I killed him, I went to a lady's rescue because he attacked her. He broke a champagne bottle and stuck it in her face. I don't go around killing my guests.
I should hope not.
No, but as you pointed out, he was with Pablo Escobar. His name was Lorenzo Morales, and he was probably I think the 10th most wanted man in the world at the time. And he came into my club and got a little reckless and careless and got into an argument with this lady. And next thing we know, he broke the Cristal champagne bottle. At least he had good taste. Was drinking Cristal. He broke the bottle and stuck it in her face.
I mean, he broke the bottle, and then there were all
He broke the bottle and stuck it right in her face.
And then, wow.
And all my guys, my floor guys, my bodyguards in tuxedos, I called the front door. I said, get over to table 7. They said, boss, we ain't going over there. That guy's nuts. I said, what do you think I hired you for? So I went over myself because I don't like nobody likes having confrontations in your club, but I have a different rule and a different reason why I don't. A lot of my people that come to my club are very high profile, mafia or world figures, big gamblers, and I don't want to have a reputation of having problems. So I went right over and I said, sir, I want to introduce myself. I own this club, and what seems to be the problem? He's mind your business. I said, well, this is my business. I said, as I said, I own it. And I didn't know he still had the bottle in his hand because it was down at his side. So he goes to turn to the lady, I thought, and he swings around and goes for my neck. And fortunately, I was agile enough. I went back and he slit me along my whole jawbone. Took 81 stitches to close up.
So he cut open the whole jaw?
Right along my jaw. He went right, and I could show you on camera, but it's underneath. And with that said, I said, I knew I had a problem. So I know about hand-to-hand combat. I was trained in it in a way. So I knew I had to diffuse him first. So I said to him, and now understand there's all blood coming down on my shirt. I said, look what you did to my shirt. I waited 6 months for the shirt, to see Alan Cotton's shirt. And he's looking at me saying, this guy's worried about his shirt. I just slit his throat, he thought.
And you didn't know that yet? You didn't feel an incredible pain?
Oh, I felt the blood. Oh, no. I felt it, but I knew it wasn't my throat because I'm talking. It was along my chin. So, and all I needed to do was get a chance to get to my gun because I carry guns. And I finally did. And I put it right to his forehead. I said, you hear these sirens? They're coming for you. Now, just once you walk out the door, I don't need any problems. There's an exit there. I got to get this lady to the hospital. She needs attention. He said, no, man. I said, no, man, where the hell are you from? He said, you don't want to know. And with that, he goes for me again. So I fired 2 shots right in the middle of his eyes. I can't believe it. I'm looking at a guy who has a hole in his head, and he's still talking to me.
What, you shot him close range, like just here, twice, and he's still talking.
Right? And there's a hole in his head. The blood is dripping down his nose. And I'm saying to myself, immediately I made a quick decision. I got to get a big gun. But this guy, I found out later from the coroner, he was so high on coke. I had 25 longs in my gun.
Yeah, but still, if you fire a shot that close range, just to his head.
Oh, yeah. Well, it took a while to spin around. He was so high on coke, he didn't close him down.
Was he a Terminator or what?
If you're going to shoot a guy, shoot him in the back of the neck and he'll go out faster.
It sounds like a robot almost.
So what I did right away, I shot 3 more times in his heart, and then he finally died. only to find out he was Lorenzo Morales, the underboss of Pablo Escobar. So I went to the hospital, got stitched up, and when I came home, which I live in a very secure compound, I found the Marielito. And for your audience that don't know, these are spiritual Hispanics that believe in this stuff. And there was a whole Santeria on my rug, and all my kids were in blood with salamanders. So I didn't know how to identify it. So they called a lady from the University of Nevada to come who studies that. And she said, you're marked for death. He said, the problem is they're going to kill all your friends, your pets, your dogs, your neighbors, and you last. They want you to suffer.
And did he send a picture with your kids on it so that you knew that?
Oh, there was pictures in all the blood. There was pictures of my kids, which got me crazy.
How did he get the pictures of your kids?
I to this day, I don't know. Some of them looked like they were on surveillance. Some were just family albums, but they were there. I was in the hospital for about 3 days. So by the time I come home, that was there. And so I figured, not such a good friend of mine, but he was still in control of New York, was a guy called John Gotti, and he was the head of the Gambino family. So I flew in New York to see him. I was in Vegas. And I said, John, I got a problem. And he started teasing me. Oh, now you're a killer. Then I said, I'm no killer. I said, the guy was threatening this lady and the whole story. I said, and now he's threatening my family. I got to go see him. He said, what'd you just say? I said, I want to go see him. Can you arrange it? He said, gladly, because he wanted to get rid of me for years. Him and I were like in competitiveness.
So John Gotti wanted to get rid of you anyway. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, he hated me. He hated me. Because, I was in The Godfather, and he was the real Godfather. And anytime we walked into a club, I would steal some of his glory. It was just an ego thing between both of us.
But can I just ask you, before you go to see Escobar, what happened to your face? I mean, did you need plastic surgery?
No, I got stitches along the bottom. But that's a good question, because Murray Parks, who's a good friend of mine in Beverly Hills, is a plastic surgeon. So I was in Sunrise Hospital in the emergency room, and they had this kid come in. I had clothes older than him, and he's going to stitch up my chin. I said, well, wait a minute. So I called Murray Parks, who was in LA an hour away by flight. I said, I'm in Sunrise Hospital. They're about to stitch up my throat. I want you to do it. And he flew in and did it. So, but I was bandaged, like I said, for about 2 days, 3 days prior to going home. I still had the bandages on when I flew to Colombia.
And what about that lady where he ruined her face? Did that ever return?
Thank God he missed her eye, though. Her name is Lois Morales. He missed her. The bottle went right around her eye. Fortunate.
Yeah, and was she scarred permanently?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she had a mark around her face, yeah.
Forever?
Of course, that ain't going away. Yeah, forever.
Right,
No.
right.
I mean, it's a serious thing. We're laughing about it now, but it was very serious at that time.
Naturally. So you went actually to see Escobar, which was like going right into the fire, wasn't it?
Well, I felt, I had 7 kids at the time. Now I have 11. And I didn't want my kids to die. I figured, let me go talk to the guy. So when I got there, the comfort I had, I met him in a church. And I get to the church, and there's only one guy up in an altar. So I start walking towards him. As I'm walking down the aisle, the pews started creaking, and guys were sitting up with guns. So when I got to the altar, there must have been 50 guys in the church. And all he said to me, are you Gianni Russo? I said, yeah. And next thing, I'm knocked out. And I wake up 3 stories down in the house that he built as his own prison. He turned himself into his own prison. And that's the deal he made with the Mexican government. So now I'm in a torture chamber with body bags, and the stench was ridiculous. I mean, and all these guys were in fatigues. And they were basically having their way with me and torturing me. And all of a sudden, a guy, well-groomed, is standing in front of me. I'm sitting in a chair, shackled to a chair. And I look up waist high, and he's holding a book that I'm very familiar with called The Making of the Godfather.
And this is Escobar in front of you.
And this is Escobar. And he says to me, why didn't you tell me you were Carlo in The Godfather? I love that movie. He's clean him up and bring him up to the house. So hours go by. They clean me up. They give me medication. And I'm sitting in Pablo Escobar's dining room, similar to mine. Like you see the dining room behind me, it sits 16 people. So he's at one end of the table. I'm at the other end of the table. And he says, I want to know something. Why did you come here? I said, well, I did my homework. You have a daughter the same age as my daughter, Gia. And I know if somebody was going to kill your daughter, as a father, you would come. So without saying anything, he stood up, he walked down towards me, and he gave me a hug. He said, you're a real man. There's few of us around.
Then suddenly you were the cream of the crop, or what?
Well, yeah, and you know, I was hoping that's the way he would feel, because I didn't know what John Gotti told him. He said, well, tell me what went on. So when I tell him what really went on, it sounded like it was the first time he heard the story. So I don't know what John lied to him about or whatever. So we ate, we talked, we drank. He said, okay, I'm going to handle this for you.
But Gianni, why didn't John Gotti, if he called Escobar telling him that you were coming, why didn't he say, well, Gianni Russo is in The Godfather? If this was his favorite movie, why didn't he know your name anyway?
Well, he didn't say that. No, what I'm saying, he knew the character, Carlo. I don't know how it translates in Colombia. No, John wasn't going to tell him the truth. John's going to tell him what he wanted. He wanted to get rid of me. I don't know. He could have said, this guy shot your guy because he's butting into his drug territory. I don't know what he told him. But when I told my story, finally, he was listening. And he said, I'll take care of it. So he said, I want you to do me one favor before you go. I said, whatever you want. You want me to mow the grass? You want me to clean the car? Now I'm jesting with him, right? He said, no, I want you and me to do the last scene of The Godfather. I said, what? He said, yeah, remember when Michael comes into your living room? So I'm saying to myself, this is how this guy's going to kill me. Because I heard he's a maniac.
So maybe he wanted to reenact the scene.
He did. So I said, do you want me to write down the lines? He said, no, I know the lines. He said, come sit up here. And I sat down, and he stands up and goes to the door with a couple of his men. And he walks in. He said, Carlo, you got to answer for Santini. And we do the whole scene. He gives me an airline ticket, and I'm saying to myself, that's how he's going to kill me. He's going to walk me out, and they're going to get rid of me.
In the car.
So now I'm really
in the car, like
yeah.
in the film.
Yeah. So now I walk to the car. He opens the door, and I sit down. It's not Clemenza in the back seat that killed me in the movie. It's two of his guys.
And two of his guys was sitting behind you
in the back.
Oh wow!
One is driving. And as soon as I sat down, like in the movie, they said, "Hello, Carlo," and they all busted out laughing, including Escobar. He leans in, gives me a hug. He says, get out of here. I'll take care of it. And I got to the airport. I couldn't believe that I was leaving. I couldn't wait to get on the plane. And here I am.
But don't you think if he actually did kill you, that this would make headlines that an actor from The Godfather had been killed in Mexico, even if they tried to cover up, that it would be that...
But who would find me?
Yeah, but if you were gone, everybody would know, where is Gianni Russo, who was in the...
How would they know? I went to Colombia. That wasn't before, this is before 9/11. I just got on a plane. I could have flew as Mary Poppins. Nobody knew who I was.
But eventually somebody would ask, where's this guy from The Godfather? You know?
Eventually. Yeah, I mean, who knows? And the FBI probably knew anyway, because they had the club that John was on the phone with every day under wiretap. But it's interesting that you're saying that, because when I landed in Florida, the hostess got on the intercom and said, everybody stay seated. Some people have to board the plane. So we're sitting, I've seen that before. Two guys get on the plane, they pick up the intercom, and they said, is Gianni Russo on this plane? Raise your hand. And I said, now what? So I raised my hand. They come to me, show me their credentials, the FBI. They took me off the plane.
So they also knew that you were returning somehow.
From Colombia. Oh, the plane came in from Colombia. Yeah.
And they knew because, as we talked about on the last show, they're all working together in a way, right? Or what?
Yeah. So now I'm on an FBI plane on the tarmac. They're taking me to Washington, and nobody's talking to me. So we're up in the air, and I have to go to the men's room. I said, can I go to the men's room? I said, can you take these handcuffs off? They said, okay, take the handcuffs off. So he tells one of the guys who walked me to the bathroom. When I come out of the bathroom, the guy leans into me. He says, you're Carlo from The Godfather, right? I said, yeah. He said, I knew it. And he walks me out. He said, I told you guys, this is Carlo from The Godfather. They didn't even know it was me.
But why were you taken to Washington in an FBI plane?
They're taking me to the DEA's office, the Drug Administration office.
Ah.
So now they're letting me know. They thought I was a new drug lord. They saw me in Vegas. They see me at the Ravenite with Gotti. Now I'm flying to Bogota. I'm in his house for 3 days. They don't know I'm being tortured. I went in with bandages. I came out with bandages.
And were you all beaten up?
Well, yeah, but no, they were beating me, all my lower body. You know, they had this ball on a chain, and they were like just destroying my groin area. The seat I was on had no seat. And they were just having their way until, you know, whatever. I mean, as I said earlier, the body bags that were piled in his room, forget about it.
They were real. There were real bodies in those bags, or what?
Unless they were animals, but they smelled like, I don't know. I mean, it's something was deteriorating.
But you also say that when you knew of the mob killing people, also in Las Vegas, but you also say that they took them outside of the city limits.
Oh, yeah, always.
In body bags. And what did they do with them? You have a story about this.
No, they didn't have body bags. In Vegas, you went from one story to the next. In Vegas, a lot of friends of mine had a 50-pound bag of lime, pure lime, and these big hefty bags. So if you wanted to kill somebody, you bring them out to the desert, put them in the bag, pour the lime in there, seal it, and leave it there. As your body fluids activate the lime eats your whole body. The bag will blow away in 3 days. There's no bodies.
And that's how it's done.
Oh, it's been done that way for years there.
Uh-huh.
I had a few cars myself with a couple of 50-pound bags of lime in it.
Did you actually bring some bodies out to the desert?
No. I'm not. Understand the laws in America. There is no statute of limitation on murder. I am not going to say I murdered anybody. No. I have been brought to trial on 3 murders, but was found innocent and self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, no.
But you do have a lot of indictments, isn't it? Is it about 25 or how many, or 53, or how many is it? It's in my paper somewhere.
They say 23. I don't know that. I can't confirm that.
You can't confirm that. Yeah.
I was taken to trial 3 times and proven innocent, all self-defense.
So there's no other juicy details about other, let's say, incidents like that with the guy in Las Vegas or Escobar that you can reveal on the show?
Oh, there's a lot of them. I'm not going to talk to you about them. I love my freedom. Why would I be talking about them?
Yeah, maybe one day, you told me, depending
If
on...
I get a terminal disease, I'll be killing more people. If a doctor ever told me I have 6 months to live, look out. Give me a list of anybody you don't like. I'll take care of some people too.
You know, what is happening at the moment with the implementation of the New World Order, worse than ever. I mean, this is very, very difficult.
Yeah, but I don't think that's something you're ever going to, I don't think there's one individual in the world that can change that.
Not one individual, certainly not one individual.
Fortunately, I have 2 passports other than an American passport. And I'm really, what should I say? My largest portfolio is in Liechtenstein.
Yes, I know, because you have money there.
I know. So that's why, to me, and I have a house in Sicily. I got houses 4 or 5 places in other countries. So I didn't want to yet leave because I have all these young grandchildren from, 16 to 1 month old. I have 10 grandsons, 9 sons and 2 daughters. I have a lot of kids.
You're good at making boys there, huh? You and your family.
Yeah, we make a lot of boys. It's amazing.
Yeah, with a lot of girls.
Without the girls, you don't make boys or anything.
That's how it is. And boy, have you been busy, huh?
Fortunately.
So are you in a relationship now?
Yeah, with a very young, gorgeous redhead.
Well, I would be surprised if she was your age.
Oh, not my age. No. I don't go out with anybody that's even 20 years close to me. My breaking point is 25.
Your breaking point is 25. I mean,
At least 25 years younger.
Oh, at least. Oh, I thought they would have to be 25.
Oh, no. 25 is, yeah, that's where I start. Yeah, you're right. I do, though.
That's your limit.
I want to make sure they could, the drinking age.
Wow. So how long have you been in that relationship?
I'm in this one now about 6, 7 months, which is great for me because of the fact that she's bisexual and she brings friends home, girlfriends, what's better than that?
Oh, so you can watch the action.
Well, I'm a great viewer.
Voyeur, huh? As it's called.
What is it called?
Voyeur.
Voyeur. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. It's French for really want to watch something.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's me, then.
People can't even comprehend the kind of life that you have led and lived and all the people that you have known. It seems that you've known everybody worth knowing in Hollywood and around the world, huh?
It's funny because as we're speaking, I got a call today from a Bob Shaheen, and he's probably known throughout the world for, he was the fiduciary for Adnan Khashoggi, who's probably one of the greatest arms dealers in the world. And talking about knowing people, because of him and my relationship, I met Saddam Hussein. I met so many people because I would go to Switzerland and I would deliver the money. I was the guy that showed up with the money. And once they inspected it and what they were ever buying, in fact, I have a funny story. I can't give the guy's name. Somebody bought a nuclear submarine about 20 years ago. And I transported the money to Switzerland, had it in the account. They knew the money was there. And after the inspection, they okayed it and we released the money. And I got on Adnan's plane. We're flying back and we get a telex on the plane saying they checked the tubes of the submarine and there's no warheads. We said, you didn't order any warheads. Look at your inventory. I couldn't believe they thought we would sell them a nuclear warhead.
Really? Really? That's what they thought? Yeah.
I mean, they thought it came equipped. It's like buying a gun without bullets.
So what was the job? What was your assignment, so to speak?
I took care of the money. I moved. I'm a courier, well known, even bonded by Lloyd's. I can carry up to any amount of money, and I did for the Vatican, and did that for years. So I'm very, very well respected to transport and certify that money is in place, and then inspect it, and then, I would transfer it to your account.
But you always brought real money, huh, in a briefcase?
Oh, no, you could never move that kind of. No, we'd wire transfer to an offshore accounts that I have. And then once they knew they were in place in my accounts, I would give them a code to see that it's in place. No, you're talking about 60, $70 million at a time.
Wow.
You're not carrying that.
Yeah, I doubt you can have that in a briefcase, huh?
Oh yeah, tell me. No, I've done up to like 10 million cash. I can carry that much.
But you couldn't. But you couldn't carry that today, could you?
I can. I still can.
But don't they? Well, discover that at the airport with all of the.
No, but I'm bonded. I just showed them my letter. I'm a bonded courier and tell them how much I have. See, what governments don't want you to do, and what the restrictions you're talking about, each government has a certain amount you cannot move. Like in America, you can't move more than $9,999. Go one more dollar, you have to have an IRS certificate knowing it's moving and where it came from. So, I mean, that's how stupid they are, because how many people are transferring $9,999 every 10 minutes? It's so stupid.
Down to that last cent.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. But anyway.
But in the past, you used to carry money more than you do today, or what? Or can you?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm basically semi-retired. I would only get involved in a major deal. But when I worked for 30 years for the syndicate who controlled Vegas, and that's basically Nick Nitti and I, my partner Frank Nitti, the famous gangster in America, his son and I. Now him and his grandson and I are partners in a couple of things. So I'm still in certain families that I like being around, and I would have nothing to do, So.
But they would really trust you, these mob guys and all of the mob associates that you had for so many years. They would trust you with all of this money, knowing that they could absolutely be sure that you would not try even to double cross or take some of that money, or there'd be
nowhere for me to go. See, they tested me early on in my teens with, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 500,000. And then by the third or fourth year, they knew every dime was always there. They even played tricks on me. And I got onto it. So.
And they paid you a handsome paycheck for it, or what?
I got a fee. I got a percentage. And some bonuses sometimes.
Right. So, when a lot of people who've become familiar with you and have seen your interviews in recent years in connection to promoting your autobiography, Hollywood Godfather, they are mostly interested when talking about you having to do this interview, and people say, oh, I would like to have a question. I want to know certain things. They are very interested in knowing whether or not you are telling the absolute truth, because your stories are so extremely extraordinary, of course. And a lot of people, they're skeptics. Can this really be true? Why don't we know Gianni Russo more? People have seen you in The Godfather, and
why you never knew Gianni Russo until The Godfather. First of all, my name was never used. I was always called the Kid, and they did that to protect them and me. And when people, even my children, sit down and say, come on, Dad, how could you have done all of this in such a short period of time? But I hit the streets at 13 So when you equate that to how old I am now, that's 65 years I've been doing this.
But that's still extraordinary. It's like really an adventure made for a movie, of course, which is basically also what you wanna do with your story, I guess. Have a film made, and you've been talking about that as well. But when people are skeptics, will you confirm and say, yes, everything I am telling, it is the absolute truth. I am not lying. You are maybe withholding some things that we talked about the last time even. But will you say that what you're saying is the truth?
Most definitely. I would be here. I mean, at my age and what I have, why now would I put myself in a situation, number one, to be questioned or proven to be lying? I remember the publishers of the book, the St. Martin's Press, their parent companies in Great Britain, Macmillan, big publishers. And they went, especially about the Kennedy assassination, when I mentioned who did shoot, what was the kill shot, was Johnny Roselli's bullet. And even with Marilyn, when I said Robert Kennedy arranged for Marilyn's assassination, they went crazy. Said, how could you prove that? I said, well, not only will I prove it, I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll indemnify you. So if any lawsuits come from the Kennedy family, I have it all.
But some people also speculate that you are actually being, let's say, or somebody behind the scenes is staging you as an actor to say some of these things in order to maybe mislead people or tell some truths, and then maybe for people to look in another direction when talking about the Kennedy assassination. But what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, here we are talking about something that's 50 years past. They've done everything there was, and so far, anybody that's even Dr. Noguchi, the coroner, with Marilyn, said Mr. Russo's theory is right. I mean, and as far as when they traced the bullet from Lee Harvey Oswald from the library, there is no way that bullet could have gone all the directions if there wasn't 3 or 4 more shooters before they even wanted to recognize it.
I think most people, the majority of people do not believe the official story for sure about what happened on that day. I mean, that's also something we've been talking about for a long time on this show. So certainly assassination was a huge psyop and totally orchestrated. But I mean, what people are fascinated is to hear how involved you were with all of these people. Even, I think you said, driving Jack Ruby.
Well, I know he picked me up at the airport. I didn't drive Jack Ruby. I was delivering money, and I didn't know to who. I went to Dallas. He picked me up, and they took me out, about a half hour, 45 minutes out of town. And I went to a ranch only to find out later on that it was Lyndon Baines Johnson's ranch. And weeks later, once he got the money, they came up with a deal, and he announced he'd be the running mate. Because as they were polling all of the different states, they knew, even with all the unions and all the affiliations we made through the mob, they still needed Texas. And don't forget, we were trying to elect, not we, but I mean my friends, what they were trying to elect was the first Catholic president who was already, known as, a womanizer. So, I mean, there was a lot of, even the Catholic Church didn't back him.
Was Johnson a Catholic?
No, I think he was Presbyterian.
But was it Kennedy that was a Catholic?
Kennedy was a Catholic, yeah. He was the first Catholic president.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think religion matters to a lot of the people in power with what they do, certainly, and also behind the scenes.
No.
I mean, that's just the front cover for presenting something really decent to the population in order for them to, believe them and trust them, huh?
Of course. Look at all the religions. one of my children said to me one day, and they said, why should I believe you now? I said, what are you talking about? You've lied to me all my life. I said, I never lied to you. And the simplest example, and your audience itself are probably doing it with their culture. They said, Dad, I remember when I lost my first tooth. You said, put it under the pillow. The tooth fairy's coming. There's no tooth fairy. The Easter bunny's coming with candy and eggs. There's no Easter bunny. Santa Claus. And they went through it all, and they were right. And then when they're 12 or 13, we just ignore it. But it's what we educated them through their young life to believe in.
So when is God coming to save the planet, especially with all of the madness going on in the terror and the deep state, operations that we don't even hear is being orchestrated, things we talk about on this channel, even things you've been involved in. I mean, all of this madness going on, and also these elitists performing Satanism and rituals and that we've heard about as well. I mean, where is God here?
That's a great question, because as a 6-year-old up to 6.5 years of age, I was already an altar boy going to church with my grandmother and believing in God. So now I'm laying in a polio ward, can't move my left side. And I'm saying, God, why are you doing this to me? Why am I here? Why isn't some bad kid here? Not me. I was a good kid hanging out how bad could you be at 6? So, I mean, that question is how strong either your faith is or isn't.
So is that also an illusion in order for people to continuously have hope when things go bad? And they do go bad all the time, huh? And most of the world's population are living in poverty and really in a very, very bad situation in so many countries around the world.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous what's going on right now. But again, the Bible is so flexible to make you a believer, number one. And number two, they justify even what's going on wrong. That you need to suffer. You need, like, I was good friends with so many. I was friends with so many cardinals, and I still am. But I remember the first conversation I had with John Paul, because I was enamored with John Paul talking about communism and where he came from. And that when he started preaching in a communist country.
Was that before or after he was elected Pope?
Before.
Before, when he was still a cardinal.
Yes. He had followings of millions of people, which, that's why they canonized him so fast. But he said to me, how much wealth do you really have? I said, it's no one's business. He said, but you believe in God? I said, I definitely do. I believe that there is a power. If it's the God I believe in, that's what I was raised to be. It could be a monkey. I don't know. It could be a Buddha.
A universal force, maybe not with a face, huh?
Yeah. But to me, I've always been flexible. I even tell my kids, believe in something other than yourself. It's like a sounding board. I mean, I pray yet. And I've gone through so many things that I couldn't justify being a Catholic in my life. But it's something we all, I think the majority want to hold on to.
But the Catholic faith has been very, very criticized, of course, especially in the last 10 or 20 years, with everything coming out with pedophilia and horrendous things going on in the Vatican and around the world as well. And people are coming out talking about their time being an altar boy and whatnot. So we've heard a lot about these things. I mean, and they can say so many Ave Marias, huh? And then everything is fine.
Well, the Ave Maria is a song. So many Hail Marys.
Okay, Ave Maria is a song, isn't it? Yeah, it is a very nice song. And, yes, it's true.
No, but it's something because as we speak today, I have altars in all my houses. I have actual altars where I kneel and pray at.
You do that
with artifacts. Oh no, artifacts with all of my. If this conversation gets part of your show, I will photograph them. I have artifacts from the Vatican. People can't even believe. I mean, they're priceless. I have Pope Pius Sextus crucifix from his coffin. They gave it to me as a gift. Now, most of your audience doesn't even know who Pope Pius Sextus is. Pope Pius Sextus was in power when he commissioned Michelangelo to do the Sistine Chapel. And he said to Michelangelo, give me some sketches to see what you're going to do. I mean, here we are talking about Michelangelo. This guy's asking for sketches to see how the chapel's going to be. But I mean, I've been privy to so many great things and going into the catacombs and, and also I go and I live in a kibbutz when I'm 23 in Israel. I lived there 6 months.
For 6 months?
I went there 6 months.
Really? What did you do there?
I met Moshe Dayan and I met a bunch of people. And I love religion. And if we all know our religion, Jesus Christ was a rabbi. He was Jewish. So I wanted to go see what he was doing over there. And I went over and I loved it. And they made me the chef of the kibbutz, because I had a background. They said, what do you want to do here? Well, I don't want to go to the army and I couldn't go anywhere. I was a citizen of Israel. So I ran the kibbutz kitchen. And I never got laid so much in my life. These little Jewish girls that worked for me, forget about. We all lived in the building. I was like, I thought I had a harem, a legal harem.
Wow. So they are not as shy as we are told, or as
oh my God,
nice.
No. Jewish women. Mm-hmm. Some of them are hot. I mean, really hot to try.
No, but we're not talking about the American Jewish women. We're talking about those in Israel, and Israel, and they even have isn't it a custom that they kind of wear clothes when they have intercourse?
Well, yes, I think that's the Sephardics, but they're like the Mormon women. The Mormon, they go to bed with a loincloth on and has a hole in it that you penetrate that hole and they're on the other side of it, which I think is totally ridiculous.
How exciting, huh?
Oh, really exciting. No, but I went out with a lot of Mormon women. I mean, fortunately, I've been around a long time. So I watched their cultures and their religious beliefs get thrown to the bedside once they're in heat, which I love that they're all normal.
Was that in Salt Lake City or what?
Yeah, Salt Lake City.
But what were you doing there? I mean, it seems like you're traveling all over.
But I'm going to talk about things not to believe that seem so far-fetched. Early on in my life, I was in the vitamin business in Salt Lake City. And my attorney, before he became one of the most renowned congressmen, he just retired, Senator Orrin Hatch, was my lawyer. Talk about squeaky clean. And, I love this guy. And when my children wanted to go to the White House, I said, what dining room do you want to go to? They said, what are you talking about? Well, do you want to go on the Democratic dining room or you want to go Republican dining room? They said, what dining room? I said, well, if you're going, I could get you invited to the senator's lunchroom and meet senators. And they would say to me, how can you have that power there? And I said, I know somebody. I pick up, anybody I wanted. I knew Harry Reid. Do I call Senator Orrin Hatch? Who do I call? It's so funny. I mean.
So is it because that all of these people in a position of power all over the world, and certainly in America, they're interconnected, and they're connected with the mob. We talked about the connection between the mob and the Illuminati in our first part of our interview as well, and you said actually they are working together. It's not it's not like they're fighting each other. It's kind of it's the same thing in a way, right?
Well, you know what I found out early on, those powers all need each other to exist, and they commingle, because what used to be organized crime in this country, which was a secret organization, and they had a ritual to get into it, and they had respect and honor, that part of that organization here is falling apart. And I think you could see the result of it just by the unorganized crime members that we have now, that have TV shows, and they're on TV and out of jail, and they committed 20 murders. What's that about? But they're being glorified as a celebrity. I mean, it's so warped.
Are you talking about reality stars?
Yeah. Yeah, like Michael Franchese, Sammy the Bull. These people are mobsters. They've been involved in major murders. Now they're celebrities. They have their own talk shows.
Yeah, but it's interesting when you mention Michael Franchese. Is that how he's pronounced?
Yes,
yeah.
Franchese. Yeah.
Because when people are being skeptical about all of your stories, they're also skeptical about other people's stories. But then there are a couple of these mob affiliated, or even they are part of the mafia, I guess.
They don't even know me. Like, he made statements about me being negative and all that. I'm saying, how does this guy know me? He's 5 years younger than me. I left New York City. I knew his father, and I saw his father when his father came out. I saw him at Parkside Restaurant. He was 103 years of age. Sonny Franchese is an amazing man. Michael was an Ivy League kid going to college. Now, if put him in college and add 5 years on to me, I'm 25 years of age. I already made the Godfather. I had nothing to do with this country. I had nothing to do with New York or the mob. They isolated me. I was a messenger. I wasn't a street mob guy. The people I killed because I wanted to kill them. And I'll kill again tomorrow. I'm not out for hire. But I was almost attacked the other night. And I've been carrying a walking stick now. In fact, Michael, all the people we're talking about said that I am a liar, basically.
Also, it was Michael Franchese who said this, and he was skeptical. He was like saying, well, don't believe somebody wants to get a lot of attention or something like that. I can't quote it totally, and talked about the Paramount Pictures door that you talked about being that exploded.
The gates were blown up. I know, but now let's go to that. I mean, where was he? In Brown University? How would he know this? He don't know.
But I obviously don't know. But this is interesting because there's a lot of back and forth now, because he says, but how?
Oh, there's not back and forth with me. I'm just telling you the way it is. I don't know the guy. He's asked me to be on his show. What's that about? He sent me so many invitations.
Then maybe you could do it, and then you could talk it through.
What for? Why would I give him credibility? What, he made millions by extorting the government gas taxes? Did he? I don't know. I don't say he did or didn't. I don't know the guy. I have nothing to say positive or negative. I met Sammy the Bull once in my life. I didn't like him when I met him. He was already with John Gotti as an enforcer. Why would I want to meet these guys? I met John Gotti early on when he was hijacking trucks in Howard Beach. I'm so far past him in ranks and everything else that he'd like to be. I sit in Sicily. My friends are those people, not street bosses, not kissing somebody's ass or bringing envelopes. I brought envelopes to nobody. It's a situation that I wouldn't even glorify talking to them. What am I going to talk to them about? I got nothing to say. I was in the money business and I carried messages. That's all I did. That's all I did. Anything else that has happened to me as far as murders or that kind of stuff, I did on my own.
And we certainly also want to talk about some of those incidents. And there's another video with this Frank Cullotta.
Colada, oh my God.
Who really
Talk
almost
about-
like, I mean, I don't know if I can call it a threat, but he certainly did make a very powerful statement in some videos saying that Gianni Russo should not mention my name, and he had not heard about the killing in your in your casino and the thing with.
He's out of his mind. Frank Cullotta was an underling out of Chicago, a thief that worked for Tony Spilotro. And they came to my door trying to get in my club. And I said, you can't come in here. I said, I have a license and you guys are in the black book. And they threatened me beyond the threat, which I wouldn't get into. But when they got called back into Chicago, the mistake Spilotro made was take his brother Michael, who's a genuine gentleman, with him as protection. And Michael got killed because of his brother brought him along. They never went to Chicago. They got out of the airport and they took him to Indiana and they buried them alive. How come I could sit here and know all of this and nobody's threatening me? And Cullotta, which was so funny, because they got to me, people called me right away. So, do you hear what Frank Cullotta said about you? I said, let him say everything he wants. I don't know the guy. I knew of him because we went, same nightclubs. We went to Paul Anka's Jubilation. I'd have my own entourage. I mean, why did they take me out? Why didn't they shoot me? Why did they kill? Why did they do it? If they are who they are, why am I here?
But how can anybody associated, affiliated, or in connection to the mafia, how can they even have talk shows or be as open as you are with your connections, with
this
their
is what
connections?
I'm saying.
I mean, all of you basically, would people ask.
Well, I'm not in
they?
the mafia. You just said the key word. They are controlled by people. I'm not controlled by anybody. The people who I'm around, even in Sicily, respect me because I made money for them. The day you don't make money and the day you start talking on television shows, Cullotta's dead now. You know that, right? He died 2 weeks after he said that about me. Did you know that?
No.
Hello. He's dead. He died in Sunrise Hospital. Hello. From COVID. Is that strange? Don't play any games.
Really? Wow. I didn't know. Yeah. I mean, I was only shown this video from his podcast. Mm-hmm. He died?
Yes. He is no longer a podcast.
From COVID. Well, that's a stretch, isn't it?
Hello.
But do you know who was...
I know nothing about anything, but
you had no connection to that, of course, obviously, huh? I mean, people would start speculating, but I think it's important to get to the bottom of this.
No, I mean, like Michael, I don't know Michael. If I bumped into him on the street, I don't know. I really don't. I knew his father. I heard about what he did. I thought it was genius with the gas taxes. He's a made guy, and now he's found religion. He wanted out of the mob, which I find very interesting.
Well, he was just very skeptical about you. He didn't make, these very powerful statements against you, like Frank Cullotta, that you now say is deceased.
Well, now you analyze your own statement about Michael. I got no problems with Michael.
He just said if the gates to Paramount Pictures were blown up, why is it not in the history books? Why can't we find any evidence about it?
Because Paramount was a public trading company at the time. I'll give you a little American history for your show and your audience. Paramount was just bought by a man called Charlie Bluedorn of Gulf American, a public trading company. And the last thing he wanted, like we all know, newspapers can be bought. He did not want his stockholders to realize they just bought Paramount Pictures. Check that history book. And they want no affiliation to the mob. None. And still even to today, they're making a movie, a bulletin for you and your audience right now called The Offer. The Offer. Somebody sent me the call sheet. It's in production right now. They're doing a 10-hour miniseries. And on the call sheet, it says Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando, go down a line or two. It says Gianni Russo. They got a guy playing me, and they're making it seem like I did a screen test and got this part because they didn't want Joe Colombo. Joe Colombo's in it, but not as they don't want the affiliation. Because now you talk about money and power. Who owns Paramount now? Viacom, a $77 billion company that also owns CBS, Paramount, and their portfolio. Do you think the Bible Belt stockholders that own Viacom stock want to think their company had an association with the mob? It's business as usual.
But then how can you talk so freely about it? I mean, we talked about this the last time.
I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth. I'm not associated to anybody. I got nothing to do with Viacom. They hire me as an actor, I get a paycheck, and I go do it. My situation is so arm's length. I have the smartest people in the world, advising me and handling me. Why am I still walking the streets? Why am I doing everything I still do?
That's the big question, and we want to know the answer. If you
I
have
think
it.
you know the answer.
Because you are protected by these people.
I'm making money. The day you don't make money, then you got a problem. And then if you get a talk show and start talking about it, you got a bigger problem. I don't know where these guys are going. I don't know where they're going. I mean, Sammy the Bull is calling out people's names on television now. Come and get me. You know where I am. Most of the people are dead he's talking about, but still, everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. He's getting it. He paid his dues.
But you also started talking about this just recently. When you go on YouTube and see older interviews with you, you have a very different demeanor in a way, and you talk about acting, and you're a little bit more posh, weren't you, back then?
Well, the reason for that was, I know some of the interviews you're talking about, they want to know my association with Sinatra. I said, I don't even know the guy, which was a lie at the time. But I'm like you said, I was 25, 26 years of age. Why would I be? I'm just moving up slowly at that point yet. I made one, I didn't even make, I just made one motion picture. Now I've made 49. I have a production company that's doing really well. And I'm doing what I'm doing, man.
So talk about, of course, what people really know you from The Godfather. And this is fascinating because you had been doing all of the things we have discussed, at least some of it, tip of the iceberg, I'm sure. And then suddenly you decided, I want to become an actor. And you had no background in acting, or I guess not even in singing yet. Well, before that time. And then, I mean, you landed a big part as Carlo Risi in the film, and work with Francis Ford Coppola and Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, all of these amazing
Not because Francis wanted to work for me. I mean, Francis had nothing to do with me getting the part. And he didn't want to work with me, believe me.
Please tell the story of how did you actually land this part, because I know this is very, very fascinating.
Well, my ego, number one, I had someone read me the book when it first came out. And I always wanted to be an actor. People used to say to me, you should be an actor. You're a good looking. I was good looking when I was younger. And they said, you should be an actor. And I'm 25 years old. People didn't realize what I was doing. I had a lot of money already then. People used to say, how do you live? You got all these cars, Ferraris, houses. I said, I invested well. It's nobody's business. But I was still working. It's ironic that you said this, because I had a conversation with Mr. Costello in 1971, because he died 2 years later. People don't know that.
Yeah, he died in 1973, the year after The Godfather came out.
I know. And he was privy to see it. A private audience they gave him and a couple of people. That Paramount won't tell you that either. But they made that arrangement in New York. But the situation was, I wanted to be it. I went to him. He says, go ahead. You want to do it? See if you could do it. And then I discussed with him the problems they were having with Joe Colombo, was picking the FBI building because his son got arrested and he was trying to say they're picking on the Italians. And there was a thing, a new slogan that he was trying to exploit what the FBI stood for. Did you ever hear the story?
No, please tell us.
That he was trying to say the FBI stood for forever bothering Italians, which I loved.
That's a good one, huh?
So when I found out about the blowing up of the gates, now I'm not saying he had anything to do with it, but I think some people were threatening Paramount, and some people in California want to be mob guys, which there's so many of them out there. They did it because those gates were blown up. They were laying on a Sunday morning and it was gone. I mean, you couldn't find a trace of, like you're saying, when they looked it up. I mean, because I only know Charlie Blue Dawn was connected to people in Milan, Italy. And the company was called Gulf and Western. That's the year. The first film they made was The Godfather, and they didn't want to make it. It was already in contract. No, I'm telling you things that nobody knows. But fortunately, I knew Joe Colombo well enough. And I came up with this idea when he was picketing and trying to stop the film, and they weren't getting cooperation. I wonder if they would admit to this fact. Francis Ford Coppola came to New York City with a Cinemobile, which had $1 million worth of equipment on it. And he had the powers that be, I forgot the cinema photographer. They were all there, and they went to Mulberry Street to scout locations. And they stopped to have lunch. And when they came out from lunch, the truck was gone.
And that was Colombo as well, you think?
No, this was bigger than Colombo.
Uh-huh.
No, this was bigger than Colombo because they wanted the respect that they come to the powers that be of Mulberry Street, Joe Colombo's Brooklyn, but a part of a Gambino, branch to say. But they wanted the respect on Mulberry Street that you come to us if you want to use our street. And they took that truck and they made a phone call and said, you want it back? Sit down with us. This is not going to be in any of these movies. I know them because, again, it's a public trading company.
Wow. But Francis Ford Coppola must know this, obviously.
Of course he knows it. He was outside looking for the truck.
So a lot of people, Gianni, must know that what you're saying is the truth because they were around. I mean, not everybody has died since then.
No. But, it's the people that were in power at that time are all dead. They're all gone. So there's no way other than a Gianni Russo saying this, unless you find somebody down there. And I'm sure they even eradicated the police reports because they called, the truck was gone. But then they made a deal.
With the FBI or what?
Not with the FBI, no. They made a deal with the mob.
Yeah, you're right. But you also said that the FBI was involved in some kind of way in the making of, what was that, just prior to making the film with the mob or what? Or
No, the FBI was Joe Colombo was picketing the FBI's office like he had a right to. He was a mob boss. He's like a legitimate citizen saying you're abusing my son. And he's using the whole ethnic group of Italians saying that we are targeted. And he created a league, the Anti-Defamation League, which in 1970, they had the biggest rally ever. 100,000 people showed up. And in 71, when they had the next rally, while we were shooting The Godfather, already, Al Ruddy, the producer, was on the dais. There was people on the dais. I got a phone call from Tommy Bilotti, who was shot down in front of Paul Castellanos. I mean, shot down with Paul Castellano in front of Sparks by Sammy DeBull and John Gotti. Years later, I get a call from Tommy. He said, "Are you going to that rally?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm on the dais." He said, "I don't care if Joe Colombo's sitting on your lap. You're not going." He said, "Now come down to Mulberry Street." And I went down to Mulberry Street. I'm sitting at Angelo's restaurant, a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I mean, a beautiful summer afternoon. And on the radio, they announced that Colombo has been shot. And Joe Gallo, who was trying to get back in good with the Gambinos, took the contract. And he had a cellmate of his that he met, a black guy. He got them credentials to shoot Joe Colombo. This is like Looney Tunes. That morning, the guy calls Gallo and he says, "Can I bring my girlfriend too? Can you get her, press releases, press passes to get close to the stage?" And Joe said, "Sure, why not?" They killed 17 people, including that guy that day. He brought his girlfriend to his own death that day. They killed all those people. You didn't hear that, did you? I mean, it's so crazy.
It's really crazy. And this was way, I mean, and the thing with
this is 72.
This was 72.
This is before the movie came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And when he was doing that with the FBI, this was way after J. Edgar Hoover was at the FBI, huh? FBI.
Well, yeah, now that came out that there was a mob because Senator Robert Kennedy brought all that out, and he introduced the act using the RICO Act finally. J. Edgar Hoover swept that law under the rug. That's why these guys just say I could do 10 years on my head, because they kept all their assets. In the RICO, if you had an ongoing racket going, the RICO Act, you lose everything that you cannot say where you paid the taxes to and got the money to pay for it. So their families were stripped of their houses. That's why all these guys started flipping.
And you also said that Hoover was protecting the mob, or because they had their claws in him, because they had evidence of him being a cross-dresser, huh?
That happened in Chicago. Tony Accardo and Sam Giancana. Sam Giancana was the acting street boss. See, Chicago is much more organized than the five families in New York. First of all, you get five Italians of that kind of power. They all have egos and they're all jealous of each other. Chicago ran it one way. One man was the boss, and that was Tony Accardo. Then he would assign one street boss, which was Sam Giancana. And Sam made some big mistakes. One being, he was the one that got Tony Spilotro to come to Vegas with his crew, the hole in the wall, which was Frank Collada. And they destroyed Vegas for all the five families because of their escapades and running it like it was their town. They ruined Vegas. See, my age, I've watched all of this unravel. I sat on the side and I laughed. It was a joke. You're losing millions. And when Spilotro was called in by Sam Giancana, that call didn't come from Tony Accardo. It came from Meyer Lansky, Tony Accardo, Frank Costello, and another guy that's still alive. I don't want to bring up his name. They called them in. They were running the syndicate and running it like a fine-tooth comb. That's why when they said in The Godfather, we're going to be bigger than U.S. Steel, they already were.
Yeah, and that's why they could control some of these top head figures that were part of the FBI and even involved in the CIA, I suppose.
Well, not only that, think about the control they had of the unions. If you wanted to be president of the United States, they had the International Longshoremen, the Teamsters Brotherhood, the Culinary Union, Screen Actors Guild. I mean, you look at the membership that could swing any election. That's how they got it done.
Were they also part of these secret society clubs? I mean, not only, the Freemasons for one, but also societies like Skull and Bones, for example?
I don't know about Skull and Bones, Illuminati and all that. I mean, we're talking about more of the things that were controlled by the Europeans, old Europeans, is what they got their marching orders from. But they control politics. I mean, look what's going on now with Biden. Biden don't even know his name. He's the president of the United States. He's definitely in control, and they're trying to switch us to communism.
I also want to ask you about Biden, but because I know that you've also known and worked for Trump, at least as an entertainer. But I want to get back to that, certainly, because we're still on The Godfather, because people want to know, how did you then get that role and land that role as Carlo in The Godfather? And also, you said that your acting teacher was Marlon Brando.
Only after I got the part, because he wanted to make sure it was right. No, but what happened was I made a deal with Joe Colombo saying, there's a great opportunity here to make money. And that's always the key word with the mob or anybody else. How are we going to make money? I'm simplifying the story. I said, listen, if you let them have the neighborhoods, get the cooperation with the unions and everybody else, you're going to ask to get the world premiere of the movie in every major city. He said, how do we make money? I said, well, you're going to have the movie before everybody else. Charge $100, $150 a ticket. Tie it to some wannabe charity. You take your piece, give something to the charity. You could arrange that? I said, no, you can. He said, well, how? I said, well, give me permission to go talk for you. And I did. I went to the Gulf and Western building. Which is ironically Trump Tower now at Columbus Circle.
Right.
And they were all there. That morning, they all showed up, and I brought Joe Colombo, which I'm sure they're not even bringing this meeting up in their movies and exploitations of how The Godfather was made. There's two different projects. One's a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal starring in it. And then they're doing a 10-hour miniseries called The Offer.
Well, they should consult you on it, right? If what you're saying...
They don't even want to know me. They want to know me as Carlo, the actor that got this part because we thought he was that good of an actor. I didn't even know what I was doing. When you see the association of the actors, that in itself contradicts what they're saying I was.
So talk about the association with the actors.
Well, everybody was a thespian. Everybody was studied. I mean, even the old timers, you had John Morley, Sterling Hayden, Richard Conte. I don't hear a newcomer there. Then you go to even the new guys. The first movie that Pacino made was Panic at Needle Park. Critically acclaimed. This guy can go anywhere he wants. James Caan just got off a TV series called Brian Piccolo, broke every record, and was doing movies and a thespian and studied for years as an actor, not a wise guy on the streets that he wants everybody to believe. But, then you got Johnny Russo. Who's Johnny Russo? He makes pizza. What the hell did I had nothing to do with this business.
Well, Diane Keaton got her big break in that one, didn't she?
Yeah, but she was already groomed. They all knew her. See, that clique, going to Stella Adler, going to
Lee Strasberg.
Lee Strasberg, all of those studios, they had scouts there. They needed young, new faces. So they knew. I wasn't going to no school. I knew anything. I went to hairdressing school for 3 months, I think. That was my in first grade.
Well, funnily enough, Lee Strasberg was actually in Godfather Part 2, huh?
Yes, he played Maya. Hello.
Yes. That's also that would also be interesting to talk about that for a moment. How it was to meet all of these amazing people. I mean, please.
Well, I knew Maya. I knew Maya when I was a teenager. Long before that movie, I used to go see Maya because he was Frank Costello's partner, and he'd say, "Johnny." He was the only person who knew my name. And then there was a big bar mitzvah that Sinatra was supposed to be at. And he wasn't there. And that's when he was married to Mia Farrow. So he called me at the Fontainebleau. I was living at the Fontainebleau Hotel at the time under the name of Dr. J. Adams. And he said, "Johnny, Francis is not at Alvin's house." I said, "Well, you're supposed to be." "Well, will I be calling you?" And that's all he very short words. I went up to the suite, convinced Frank, "You better get over there." Mia lied to him and said that they called it was canceled. I said, "Frank, you're smarter than that. They don't cancel bar mitzvahs. They're planned for months."
There's also been a lot of speculation on, well, Frank Sinatra and Mia Farrow and her connection doing Rosemary's Baby with
Roman Polanski.
Roman Polanski.
How do I know all this? I'm an old man. You give me a name, I know it. My mind is, that's why people fear me. My kids fear me. I say to them things that they told me when they were 4.
Well, you have a sharp mind, even though you're soon turning 80 in 2 years.
Yeah, not 2 years, 14 months.
Wow, that's amazing. So, I mean, but yeah, there's also a lot of speculation there. I mean, can I just, we go back to The Godfather, but who do you think? I mean, there's been a lot of talk, speculation again, who could be Ronan Farrow's father? Because he certainly does not look like Woody Allen.
No, but you know what I think happened here? I think Mia, being as smart as she is, because when you do the calculation, they were already divorced. With his age, Roman's age, she probably, knowing her, she kept some of the sperm. So your audience right now has to be creative. And how did she get the sperm? Get creative and go to the bathroom and spit it out in a test tube and save it. Well, I don't know what happened. They were my neighbors where I lived.
Or they could have met up again, so to speak, later on. You know,
because he loved doing that, you know.
I mean, if he was the father, even though, I mean, some people do say, yeah, maybe he could be, but I mean, he doesn't really look like Frank Sinatra. Totally doesn't, does he?
Oh. It was the blue eyes, and I mean, you know, it's. But knowing Frank as well as I did, Frank likes returning to the scene of the crime. He likes women that he's been with, and he could have bumped into her at PJ Clark's one night. We used to go there all the time, and he'd hook up. You know, he had an on again, off again romance with, you know, Lana Turner forever. I mean, Ava Gardner forever. But you know, it's crazy. But
so, I mean, was it Frank Sinatra who said, "Do not take the part in The Godfather"? He almost
to me, yeah.
To you.
Oh my God.
Why did he even say that? Why would he suggest or even try to, well, demand that you should not take that role if you had the opportunity through Joe Colombo?
Well, the interesting thing about that, he told Vic Damone not to do it, and he didn't do it. Vic Damone was supposed to be Johnny Fontaine. I mean, the guy who got the part, Al Martino, got it that after 3 or 4 turned them down because Sinatra said you never work again. But when Sinatra called me, and I remember the phone call like it was yesterday. Dorothy called, said the old man wants to talk to you. I said, great. I got on the phone. He said, Johnny, we're friends, right? I said, of course. He said, if I asked you to do me a favor, would you do it? I said, Frank, You're my friend. I'll do it. What do you want? He said, I heard you got cast in The Godfather. It's Carlo. I said, yeah. He said, well, some other friends of mine got parts, and because of our friendship, I don't want you to do it. So would you do it? I said, whatever you want, Frank. And I hung up. And now I'm thinking, I said, wait a minute. This is the biggest break in my life. What does Frank Sinatra ever do for me? And what's he going to do for me later? So I waited a day and I called Dorothy. I said, Dorothy, can I talk to the old man? Puts me right through. I used his own dialogue. I said, Frank, we're friends, right? He said, of course. I said, if I asked you to do a favor, would you do it for me? He said, yep. I said, if I asked you not to do Here to Eternity, would you have done it? And he hung up on me. Because he knew where I was going.
So he could actually decide a lot of things and in a way threaten people. People feared him, feared his power, feared what he could do.
Well, I'll give you a great example. His son-in-law, Tommy Sands, was married to Nancy and abused her.
Nancy Sinatra.
The one my boots were made for walking.
Uh-huh.
Well, he bought Tommy Sands' contract and exiled him, and he's still there. Or maybe he died by now, to Hawaii. He never worked again. Frank has that kind of power within the industry and the mob.
And also he was associated or part of the so-called, well, Illuminati. They talk about being one of the top guys in the movie industry, representing it on a governmental level.
Yeah, well, I can't talk about that, but there's so many rumors about Frank. I can only talk about what I do know, not what I don't.
Like what a lot of people say Bob Hope was.
But again, these people, why do they have so much power? Somebody must have approached them, gave them an offer they couldn't refuse.
Mm-hmm. And they were both also connected to Kissinger, who is still all powerful, isn't he?
It's so funny. I saw his wife the other night.
She's tall.
Yeah. I wanted to get him on my show, but she said he's totally out of it now. You don't even know who he is.
Oh, he has some kind. He's suffering from dementia.
He's 98.
Yeah. Well, they all get very, very old, though, these top elitists.
Well, hello. Time goes on.
But have you met Kissinger as well?
Oh, yeah. My God, yeah. You know where I met him? When I was fascinated with him. I snuck in to go to the world premiere of The Godfather because they had a warrant for my arrest. And so I just snuck in, wanted to walk the red carpet, and I walked into the theater and I snuck right back out. Then later on, I went down to the St. Regis Hotel where the party was, and I went up on the service elevator, went into the dining room, said hello to everybody. Everybody's wondering where I was. And there was Henry Kissinger. He was there at the opening that night. And Andy Williams, I heard Speak Softly, Love, the lyric. Andy Williams sang it that night. It was a great night. But I met Kissinger later on through John Kluge and different people that I got to know later on as I matured.
Well, a lot of people that we've had on this show has certainly never spoken very highly of Kissinger because of his involvement with everything that is going on behind the scenes and the creation of not only war but conflict in general on the political scene and in the financial scene as well. He was part of creating the Bilderberg Group along with David Rockefeller in 1954.
Well, a lot of these guys, when he has the power and the image and the prestige, so he was for hire.
Yeah,
made a lot of money.
So how was your when you landed your part in The Godfather and you met Marlon Brando for the first time? What was that meeting like?
Well, it was very funny because the meeting was on 119th Street at Patsy's Restaurant in Harlem. And as a kid, I used to we called them overnight loans when I was still doing deliveries in New York for Costello. So they'd call the Copa, and they used to have big games there at night in the back room. And they'd need an overnight loan. We called them overnight loans. So I'd bring up 5,000, 10,000 for their bank because they got hit. So I was up there all the time. So when I got the call sheet to be up there in the afternoon, and at the bottom of the call sheet, it said Patsy's, where the location was. I said, great. So the studio called me and said, we'll send a car to pick you up. I said, no, I got my own car. Don't worry about it. I know the place. Because I already had a 65 Bentley with a Chinese chick chauffeur. I was going to get into some station with these idiots. I'm wearing Brioni already. So I get there earlier, and there's 100 years of good behavior at the bar. Fat Tony Salerno, Danny Pagano Sr., Angelo Cheesecake. These are the real guys of the Genovese family, which I knew. So they said to me, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here for the rehearsal of The Godfather. Are you kidding me? Because they knew they were there too. They wanted to see all the celebrities coming through. They said, what are you going to do in The Godfather? I said, I got a part, big part. They said, you're not an actor. They knew me with, being around Costello. I said, I got the part of Carlo. They said, get out of here. I said, I'm telling you. So I go inside. And they specifically said, do not walk up to Brando. Do not have eye contact with him. And that's it. I said, no. And big bold letters. Don't go near him. So I'm sitting there. We go through the whole thing. First, it was just the introduction. I was part of the family, so I sat closer to the bigger actors. And I'm sitting there. I'm just loving this, man. I'm in this movie. So they get to a break, like a half hour in, and Brando comes over to me. And he says to me, you're a big TV actor. I said, no. He says, you got a big movie coming out. I said, no. He says, well, you're not on Broadway. I know everybody on Broadway. I said, you're right again. What's this, a quiz show? So he looked at me and he said, who'd you study with? I said, study what? What are you talking about? And with this, he calls Coppola over. He says, Francis, this guy's marrying my daughter. And Coppola didn't want me in this movie at all. I was a gift from the studio. He had to use him. So he said, I know that. And I never broke down the script, like other actors do, they get the arc where they're going to get their high and all that. He breaks down the whole script. He says, he marries my daughter. He abuses her. He sets up my son, Sonny. He sells my family out to the Barzinis. I have to draw my son, Michael, in to become what Sonny should have been. He said, this guy's got to be a great actor. You should rethink it. Now, I've never been on a set before. I didn't know I couldn't dismiss the director even in a rehearsal. So I know this guy's trying to fire me. So I said, Francis Coppola, go over there a minute. And he leaves. Now the whole room goes quiet because they're all sitting there watching this. Now, the next sacrilege, I put my arm around Brando. They said, don't look at him, not alone touch him. And I want to take him in the back room where the game is. I knew nobody was there, but I didn't want to embarrass the guy. So I get him out of earshot. I'm nose to Brando. I said, Marlon, let me just tell you something. All due respect, I know who you are. I'll clean this up for your audience. I said, you screw this up for me. Listen to what I'm telling you. Look at me. You screw this up for me. I will suck on your heart. If I get fired, you will bleed out. You hear me? He stepped back. I don't know if you're going to call a cop. I didn't know anything. He said, that was brilliant. You're a good actor. He thought I was acting. I meant it. How could I go back into the neighborhood? They all thought I wasn't doing it to begin with. Even the guys I just met were saying, you're not in this movie. This guy's getting me fired.
So you've got street cred. You had the ability. You had the talent just from learning your craft on the street.
I watched these guys do it all day long. Yeah. Me playing mobster, that's easy. I watched these guys all my life. They'd turn off having dinner and get crazy with somebody. I've done that all my life. See you later.
And how many times have you been killed on the screen?
Oh my God, so many times. But the fortunate thing, if you look at my movieology, I've done 49 good movies. The Freshman, Any Given Sunday, go on. I forget them all. But I've had fun. To me, it's like a golf game. I show up, I'll do it.
And then you also did Godfather 2, huh?
Yeah, that I got more money for Godfather 2 for one day because now, you know, they can't give me $17,000 for that. But I didn't care, you know. To me, my ego still runs high. I mean, I like who I am. Why am I doing a podcast? I like doing it. But if people in Copenhagen know me now, when I'm walking down the street, say hello.
Definitely. And you should come over at some point. Maybe we could do a live talk in front of an audience. That would also be interesting, huh?
I would love it. I would love it.
But I mean, so Al Pacino, he was very young at the time, and you worked with him later on as well, huh? And you worked with Brando again years after, and you became.
I gave him the biggest paycheck ever. In the freshman, gave him $15 million with Matthew Broderick, Bruno Kirby. But you know, we do. You know, it's. I've done some great work, fortunately.
You've known so many incredible people. We've talked about a lot of them. But if I mentioned the names of certain celebrities or people, some of them you may have known of, or known a little bit, or maybe intimately. Maybe some of them you haven't known at all. But if I mention the names, maybe you could tell me your thoughts on them or your experiences with them. This would be really interesting. I know that you have you had an intimate relationship with Dionne Warwick?
No, Dionne, I was her manager. There was a lot of reasons we made people believe that. And I managed her for 15 years. Made a lot of money. We made a lot of big recordings. In fact, her first comeback was Barry Manilow, Never Loved This Way Again. Then Kashif, the Bee Gees, That's What Friends Are For. When I took her over, she was done. She didn't even have a label. And but you know, I made a lot of money with her. And it's funny that you should say Dionne Warwick, because Frank Sinatra, Dionne Warwick, and I share the same birthday, December 12th. That was the name of our company.
Oh, wow. So you shared a company together with Sinatra and Dionne Warwick.
Yeah, called December 12th.
How interesting. And you became her manager, her agent, or what?
I was her manager. I managed her career to get her back to how she revised herself was doing duets with younger generation. And then she started crossing over like so many actors, so many performers did also. Tony Bennett did it. Everybody started doing duets, even Sinatra with younger talent, to broaden their audience. Because, you know, when rock and roll came, it destroyed a lot of people's careers.
And many people did cross over. And I guess Dionne Warwick also crossed over to become more pop in a way.
Oh, yeah, more contemporary, definitely.
And one of the most amazing, extraordinary comebacks in history is, of course, Tina Turner. Have you ever met her?
Oh, I love Tina Turner. Yeah. I knew her and Ike when they were a lounge act at the International Hotel. That's how far back I go with her. And Ike was a degenerate gambler and used to beat her mercifully. And then,
we know this terrible story. Of course, we saw that in the movie What's Love Got to Do with It? And there was a documentary, a fascinating one, out this year.
Yeah, I didn't want to go see it. You know, I knew the whole story at the time. And she's a fabulous lady. I love what's going on with her now. You know, someone just bought her whole repertoire of tunes for hundreds of millions of dollars, and she deserves it.
I know. I think they even bought her likeness, which is extraordinary. And the musical on her life is, of course, a success on Broadway. And she's so present at the moment, even though she's retired. But I mean, what was your experience in the 70s or the 60s? This must have been with Ike.
Well, in the 60s and 70s, understand that here I am. I mean, I knew, how do you interfere? My mother and father, my father used to beat my mother up. How do you can't interfere unless somebody asks you. And a lot of women, battered women, I'm sure still to today, who's even listened to this show, some of them, just give into it. Some psychological thing where they won't turn against them. How many times you read when the police come to arrest a guy that's beating up his wife or his girlfriend, she jumps on the police and they're there to protect her. It's a sick situation.
But she was such a famous lady and she was so wild on stage. So nobody knew this was going on. But I mean, you witnessed this or knew that it was happening?
No, I would never witness it. I would take Ike's head off. No, I'm not going to stand there and let a guy beat up a woman. I don't care who it is. No. No, it was done in close quarters. They kept it to themselves for a long time. It was until later on. But his gambling habits was destroying them. Every dime they made, he would spend on gambling.
And coke.
Oh my God, yeah.
But did they ever work at your hotel? No, I think your hotel was in the 80s, the International. And they used to open for Elvis, huh?
Later on, yeah. They were in the lounge there. When I first met them, they were at the lounge. When that hotel opened, Barbra Streisand opened it for 4th of July weekend for 2 weeks. Then Elvis followed her in. It was amazing. I mean, success. I loved it because I owned all the property surrounding it. So it made my property more valuable because it wasn't on the Strip. It was on Paradise Road.
Mm-hmm. So those were major names at the time. And you knew, so you met Tina Turner, but you also knew Elvis. Huh? What was he like?
Elvis was such a great guy, and he did a friend of mine a favor when I opened a club called Tiffany's in the 70s, early 70s at the Tropicana Hotel. And he'd come in every night. After his show, he'd come there. I opened at midnight to 6 in the morning. It's a unique club. I only operated 6 hours a day, 3 days a week, only 18 hours. But that club was so successful, more so than clubs are open 24 hours a day because of my clientele.
Wow. So you had your little Studio 54 in Vegas or what?
Oh, it was even bigger than that because I'm gaming.
So was he, I mean, we've heard so many stories about Elvis and what his life was like, and maybe he was a bit controlled by that colonel. And
not really. The colonel and him, one thing about him and the colonel, he could have walked away from the colonel numerous times. The colonel made him who he was. They made a deal. He got 50 cents on the dollar. And I feel bad about the Memphis Mafia, he used to call them. These are the guys that buried him, basically. They were supplying him all the prescription drugs. If you were my friend, you'd tell me to stop. And they just kept feeding him. They were insecure. But if they thought about it, Elvis would have lived another 10, 15, 20 years if they got him off the drugs.
Do you think in a way he was killed by drugs without knowing that was their purpose?
No, they didn't try to kill him. They would never do that. They were just trying to make him happy.
Well, we know what happens to major stars. They become untouchable icons forever, like Marilyn Monroe that you knew so intimately, and James Dean.
Yeah, but she didn't kill herself either.
No. Exactly. That's what I mean. Perhaps, it could have been done with drugs, like what a lot of people suspect happened to Michael Jackson, that this was also an overdose, but it was done to him.
Michael Jackson was a pedophile. I mean, I would have liked to kill Michael Jackson. I mean, Elvis didn't hurt anybody. He was a performer. And he was sharing money. There was no reason to target Elvis. Elvis was very generous and giving. I mean, I could see pedophiles, drug addicts, and guys that get involved too heavily with owing big money, they're going to die. So, there's certain people, unfortunate, that are targeted with the same MO as being a drug user and all that.
But we also hear that a lot of these top elite people, also for these bloodline families who control the show that we don't know about, that they perform these satanic rituals. We talked about that earlier, and also that they have these pedophile orgies, that they do these horrible things to children. Trump even talked about this.
Well, that we knew that years ago. I mean, some of the major names in the world were part of that. You know, it's
and also in Hollywood. I know everybody's talking about Me Too, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, huh? They don't talk about what happens to children.
Well, Hollywood, that's been going on forever. Nobody really knew, you know, how many people were bisexual. I mean, I found out, I was in shock when my house guest was Marlon Brando and Mario Puzo in the south of France. When the world premiere of Superman came, most of your audience don't know that Mario Puzo wrote one of the Superman scripts. And he wrote the one that Marlon Brando was Superman's father.
It was like kryptonite. Yes, it was like in this ice world or whatever it was.
And it's funny, I used to use Chateau Fiat Motor Company's villa in the south of France because I was so close to Johnny Agnelli. So when Johnny Agnelli heard they were coming, he said, let them all stay at the house. I want to come and meet them all.
But did they have a love relationship?
Well, I'm going to get to that. So now we're inviting all kinds of people that I knew, like Tony Curtis. I did a movie called Lepke with him. And I had an inkling, you know, that Brando was bisexual and Tony Curtis was bisexual. So now we're at an intimate party at our own home that Agnelli and I are hosting. And Tony Curtis arrives late and we're all out on the patio and he sees Brando and they go into an emotional embrace. I mean, with their tongues down each other's throat. I'm saying to myself, I can't believe it.
Tony Curtis and Marlon Brando, or the other guy?
Yes.
Oh, those two.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, you hear all kinds of stories, but I mean, if I didn't see it, I wouldn't mention it.
But I mean, it's like some of the major heartthrobs and those Hollywood male icon, Rock Hudson and Tab Hunter and many people.
Most of them are bisexual.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, this is something that people are, but I mean, we're talking, and then they are with other people who feel the same thing. But what we were talking about were pedophiles, people who are doing this to innocent children. This is not about if your sexuality, if somebody you choose to be with.
But to follow the same thought, we're talking about major stars that would take advantage of young stars who weren't gay. And the casting couch was not just for women. They were for young actors with older producers.
And we still don't hear about that, do we?
No, and you never will.
Did somebody ever approach you to do them sexual favors in the beginning of your career?
Oh my God, yeah, are you kidding? I could name a few that definitely happened. The only reason I mentioned Mae West, she was doing a movie called Myra Breckenridge. I'll never forget it.
With Raquel Welch.
And Michael Sarn was directing. They asked me, I just did a couple of movies. They asked me to come and they had an 8 o'clock meeting for me. I called my agent, who was Jack Gelati at the time. I said, Jack, I don't want to go to an 8 o'clock meeting in the morning. He says, it's at night. I said, oh, and I should have known then. So we get to this bungalow at 20th Century Fox lot. And I'm there and I go there. And it's Michael Sarn, the director from London, and Mae West. Now, Mae West looked like a lampshade in my grandmother's house. She had this chiffon big dress. And I'm saying to myself, hey, she's a legend, you know. I mean, she had all those great lines, you know, like.
She was a legend if there ever was one, huh?
I mean, I remember the one line she used to say, is that a banana in your pocket or you're just happy to see me?
Exactly. So you actually met her. She must have been really old at that time, huh?
Oh my God. And not only that, so now she said, did you read the script? I said, I read some of it. She said, there's a lot of nudity. How are you with nudity? I said, well, if it's part of the story, I'll do it. So she said, well, Michael and I would like to see your body now. I said, excuse me? She said, I'd like to see your body now. I went off on her because I had money. I had money long before I was an actor. And I'm driving on the lot. I'm out of there.
You talked back to Mae West, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I can't even say online on record what I said to her.
Can you modify the words?
Well, I called her an old pervert. I mean, and the screaming fag that's standing next to you. They wanted me to get dressed so they could see my body. Are you out of your mind?
They probably wanted to see if you could be used in the film, huh?
Of course. Hello.
But is that, I mean, that's kind of interesting though, isn't it? That's an interesting experience though.
Well, I mean, you get another guy who wants that party. Maybe he would have went along with it.
Probably did.
I don't know how many of those stories there were.
I'm sure a lot of them did. You must know a lot of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that's why, as you say, once they get their success and they're the only ones that know what they really did to get there, I think that's why a lot of them get strung out on drugs and are not happy with who they turned out to be. They can have all the wealth and fame, but, my self-respect means so much to me. That's why, I'm as crazy as I am.
I think we know that you just mentioned 20th Century Fox. We know that Daryl Zanuck, who was head of the studio.
Oh, the Xanax were the ones that was controlling Marilyn.
Yeah,
they all had their way with her, and they convinced her this is how you become a star.
Joan Collins, she said that Zanuck had a golden statue, whatever you called, a figure of his penis.
Oh my God! No, this guy's nuts.
That he would produce if young girls came into his office.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Do you know this?
I knew about it. He wasn't into me.
No.
He knows I ripped his head off. No, I'm not that kind of guy.
But I mean, it's been.
I remember a classic story. I did 23 Merv Griffin shows, which is unheard of.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow.
I did 23.
23?
The second or third one, he comes into the makeup room and he dismisses the makeup lady. And he says, close the door. So I'm sitting in the makeup chair and he comes behind me, starts rubbing my shoulders.
Merv Griffin?
Merv Griffin. And he said, I could make you a big star. I said, Merv, let me tell you something. Get your effing hands off me or I'm going to rip off your arm and shove up your ass. You probably will like that. And I got out of the chair and walked out.
But you came back 23 times.
It turned him on.
But you came back for more, didn't you?
Oh, no, I came back as a guest and he got that straight.
That's so interesting, though, that so many things are happening. Finally, people are talking a little bit about it, but now they're kind of turning the whole Me Too into a feminist thing against the men.
Now it's a circus.
Yeah, and now men are not even allowed to flirt, let alone anything else.
You can't even say, wow, you look great.
Yeah.
It's a sexual get out. I mean, I had 86 girls working for me in Vegas at one time, 86 girls. And I'd close at 6 o'clock and I'd say, okay, who all wants to come out on my boat? I had a big boat on Lake Mead. And they knew if they didn't come, basically, you're fired.
You would fire them. You would fire them if they didn't come on the boat.
I wanted company. Come on the boat, hang out with me. But today, forget about it. Sexual harassment.
And did you actually have sex with all 86 girls?
Most of them, if they wanted to. We got drinking, hanging out all day. but I didn't force myself on anybody.
Do you know? Do you know how many women you've actually been with?
Oh no, I couldn't even imagine. I started so young. I mean, when Costello, when I was 18, he gave me 3 hat check rooms to manage. Now, but people don't know, they were big in the 60s and 70s because everybody wore a fedora and a coat, top coat in New York. So I had the Latin Quarter, Toots Shores, and the Copacabana. So after you got in and checked your clothes and all that, those same girls would go sell you cigars and cigarettes because people were smoking. I was making $300 or $400 in each club a night. And all those girls that worked for me, I needed 3 girls for each club. They would do anything I want. They were making $300 or $400 a night. And I was a good looking kid. I was 18 years old. I had a beautiful apartment. I was at this apartment, actually. I'm in it yet.
Yeah. Wow. This is so fascinating. You've known so many people. You've also known Zsa Zsa Gabor, huh?
Oh, my God. I know her for years. And then Merv Griffin talked. I think this is the story you're looking for. Merv Griffin called me and he said, Gianni, I want you to take Zsa Zsa Gabor to the opening of MAME as a favor to me because he was dating the sister. She was his beard.
Ava.
Yeah, he was dating Ava, but the guy was a screamer. He had nothing to do with Ava. He only liked boys.
Oh, so it was like pro forma, as we say.
Of course. It's like, we used to call it his beard, because at that time, if you were gay, they wouldn't even put you on television. You couldn't get a sponsor for your show. Not like it is now. So anyway, long story short, I said, I'll do it as a favor to you. Because she was so unique, I wanted to meet her anyway. And she was older than me, obviously.
Yeah.
So we exchanged numbers and she calls me and with her accent, darling, this, that. So I'll send my car for you. I said, I got my own car. She said, what kind of car do you have? And I told her, okay, your car's better than mine. I had a Chinese chick chauffeur, And she was living in Howard Hughes's house in Bel Air at the time. And the premiere for MAME was at the Cinedrome on Sunset.
So it was the film MAME, not the show with Angela Lansbury. Yeah.
Movie, yeah.
Right.
The movie.
Uh-huh.
So now I pick her up, we have some drinks, and I have a tendency in my car, in the back seat, if there's a woman sitting next to me, I put my hand on her leg.
As you would, huh?
Well, wouldn't I? But the funny is, you're just sitting there. She's sitting next to me, and bang, I put my hand on her leg. And the only reason I'm saying it, because she had this big chiffon dress. I don't know what was under there. But this is a good guide for guys who want to know if the lady's a little overweight and she has a big dress on. That was why I did it. So I put my hand on her leg. My hand didn't go round. It just stayed open flat. That's how big her thigh was.
Really?
Yeah, so I had no sexual.
So you didn't go with her? I mean, sleep with her?
No, listen what happens. So now we go to the premiere. I get out of the car, and it's Army Archer televising live on one side, and Merv Griffin. And I get out of the car, and he likes practical jokes. I get out of the car, and he said, the first time in public, Zsa Zsa Gabor and Gianni Russo, her new fiance. And she always wore big diamonds. And I'm saying to myself, he set me up, this rat. I'm getting all kinds of calls. I'm already dating like 6 women. So now we go to the premiere, we go to the party, and I'm boiling. He said, I'm going to get you, Merv. I'll get you up on this. So I drive her home. It's like 2:00 in the morning now. We're drinking this, that, and the other. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna see what's under that dress. So she said, would you like to stay? I said, yeah, I'll stay. So she shows me to her bedroom and she disappears into a bathroom or wherever she went, I don't know. So I get dressed, I jump in bed. Now a hand comes in, just cracks the door, and shuts off all the lights. I mean, it's pitch black. A girl gets into my bed, her bed, that was a 10. I mean, had to weigh maybe 110 pounds the most, a sculptured body. We had an affair for 20 minutes, a half hour, whatever. Then sneaks out of bed. And a couple minutes later, Zsa Zsa Gabor comes walking in. Now, I know I was not holding that big lady in my arms. To this day, I still don't know who it is.
Wow, so it was someone else, and she tried to make you believe that it was her.
Right. And so Merv says to me, because he must have known about this, the next day, so how was your night last night? I said, Merv, I got to tell you something. You owe me. From what you did last night, you got to tell me who I slept with. Is you slept? I mean, I said, that's a nice word. I said, who was that girl? He's nobody knows. She does it all the time. She wants to be known that she's a great lover. Is that bizarre?
That is bizarre. I mean, it really is. Like a lot.
And every time I see her daughter that she had with Hilton, I'm hoping it wasn't her.
Yep. Did you see her? I can tell you it probably really wasn't. But she's dead now too, you know.
I know. But what I'm saying, I don't know who else could have been, because that girl would have been 16 or 17. Was she making her daughter do that age? I don't know. In Hungary, they say they go to bed early in life.
But I mean, it was years ago, so you never know. But I mean, it's very degenerated anyway out there, isn't it? I mean, no matter what you choose to do with whoever is of age, it's only when it is against somebody's will or what you do to children that it's absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, I think.
Of course.
I mean, understand
what people choose to do together or whatever, or it's a wild party and people are a little crazy, that's okay. And if people have different preferences, and if they go with somebody who has the same preference, that's their choice. But I mean, innocent.
As you remember, we talked earlier on, and I don't know if your audience was a part of that. The first person I killed at 12 years old was a pedophile that was trying to attack me.
You could have had that experience yourself.
Right then and there.
Absolutely.
If he overcame me, who knows? I may be talking with you with a lisp, but wearing high heels today. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't happen that way, you know. It's what is within you, I guess. But I mean, the thing is that you killing that guy at the sanitarium there was covered up, and that's what is happening today. Because they cover it up.
The Catholic Church has been covering up for years.
I know.
Are you kidding me?
They are holding their hands, you know, up there and protecting everybody underneath doing these horrendous things.
Well, I think Pope Francis is part of that club. I hate to say it.
What about that Pope Benedict? Was he a charmer?
I don't know. I mean, I can't even talk about them because to me, why? I mean, and they're selling off land only to pay off all these pedophiles to quiet them down. The church is selling property in the United States you can't believe, because the lawsuits are so huge. But you never hear about them publicly.
You don't. Like the rest, everything is covered up. It's a big web of deceivers, really, isn't it? But I mean, you also worked with or knew some other amazing people. Grace Kelly.
Oh, I love Grace Kelly, man. I met Grace Kelly early on in life. And, a couple of people asked me, why did you not mention Grace Kelly other than subtly in your book? Because they knew, some people knew that I knew her intimately. And I said, talking about Grace Kelly and her image with her children alive is like talking about the Blessed Mother. I'm not doing it.
Prince Albert of Monaco.
Oh, I love Prince Albert.
You know him as well.
I know I knew the two daughters too, Stephanie and Carolyn. No, I mean, I go to Monaco. I used to go to Monaco 4 or 5 times a year. I mourned my boat outside of Jimmy's for years there.
But did you say you knew her intimately, so you did have an affair with her?
No, 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 no. It was a situation. She was involved in a party that I was at, and she was still wild and young. No, all of them were crazy, those kids. I mean, when they sent her to Barbizon, which your audience is going to love this one. Barbizon is an all-women's hotel. And it's right down the block from me. It was like my midnight candy store. The Barbizon on 63rd in Lexington. I live on 61st, 2 blocks away.
So is it like a cat house, or is it for lesbians or spinsters or what?
Oh, no, no. It was everything. But the well-to-do people sent their daughters there to go to finishing school, modeling, all that in New York. But if these girls wanted to go out at night, the floor monitors, we used to take care of them. Frank Costello taught me that. I'd go there with an envelope, and he'd say, I knew what he meant. He's go get flowers for the table. And I knew I was going to the Barbizon. And he'd tell me where to bring them. Go to Land Quarter and get 3 or 4 girls. We go here and there just to have them. Now, these girls, if they wanted to be promiscuous, nobody was forced. You know, it was up to them. Like Marilyn. Nobody forced Marilyn. Marilyn just thought it was her duty to give herself.
But don't you think they kind of did?
Oh, I think so too. But I mean, I think they realized the power of these guys. If I don't, what would happen?
Exactly. And she was kind of forced to and felt forced, huh?
Psychologically, and they think if I'm going to make it in this world, and it's ironic, they all made it.
She talked about the wolves. Another thing that Joan Collins wrote about was that Marilyn had told her that she had to be careful of the wolves in Hollywood. And that meant, of course, all these guys.
Yep. Marilyn, over our 4 years, I think, spoke about everything, everybody. I mean, from Brando, Tony Curtis, Sinatra, they all had a way with him. John F. Kennedy was in love with her.
Yeah, we know that. What about Jackie Kennedy? And then what was her role in the whole thing? And how was she involved in the mafia with Onassis?
No, Onassis didn't need nobody's. Onassis, I mean, was so rich. And the reason he married her was just a trophy wife. Onassis, you know, talking about Onassis is the reason Monte Carlo is what it is now. Because he went to Prince Rainier and he said, listen, I'll put the money in Monaco and build up all the industrial and all that. But you have to go marry a movie star. You have to make this a destination. Because Monaco is like its own country within France.
So Onassis, he set up the marriage between Grace Kelly and Prince Rainier.
Oh yeah, and flooded Monaco with money for improvements and everything else.
So it was arranged.
Oh my God, yeah. And what's interesting, we could say it now, and I know Albert's alive and Carol and Stephanie are alive, but the interesting thing is that the deal with Rennie, that he could keep his old-time girlfriend. Is that weird? Grace, when she married him, they, understood that he's going to keep his mistress.
But she could not be with another man, or what?
Well, I don't know that, but I didn't get into that. But what I'm saying is she wanted to be Princess Grace and wanted that so desperately. But it's funny because a lot of European guys, especially guys like me, we have a lot of, we call them gumatis. We have gumatis. People know, as long as I don't embarrass you, who cares?
You're Italian, of course, but...
Well, yeah, but they, a lot of the wives don't want to be that giving. They don't want, they want to have sex like once a year. What are they, out of your mind?
Yeah. So Onassis actually controlled Monaco in a way.
Oh my God, no, he did. Not in a way.
He did.
He made it what it is.
So, and he dumped Maria Callas, huh, for Jackie.
Oh yeah. Oh, Maria Callas, when Jackie was available, why not marry Jackie Onassis, Jackie Kennedy? Hello.
So what do you think happened to John to when his plane crashed in 1999? I mean, a lot of people say that he's Q and he's still alive and working with Trump behind the scenes and all of that. What do you think? Do you think this was rigged, or I mean, and
No, his wife and him had a love-hate relationship. They did a lot of coke, and basically the kid was not qualified to fly that plane in that weather.
But don't you think it's suspicious that a lot of Kennedy people are dying or died under?
Well, they think it's an omen. I mean, it's that whole thing about the Kennedy cult has got a cross on it. I mean, when you think of some of the things he did, Joe Kennedy had his own daughter have a frontal lobotomy because he couldn't control her.
But don't you think it could be rigged with John and that plane?
No way. No. Wreckage is down. They found the whole thing. Those two parents, I mean, don't forget, you're talking about the sister. There's too many people involved. And he was not happy in his relationship. They weren't.
Well, if they could stage 9/11 and do all kinds of other things, and probably also this whole COVID thing, I mean, why couldn't they have done that?
But it wasn't that important. What did he control? John didn't control anything yet. No, I mean, there's so many theories. I'm just saying what I think.
Of course, that's what we want to hear.
Well, I'm saying it's, to me, when you have major companies and controlling billions of dollars and influencing governments, these are the people that are controlling everything. A couple of billionaires. I mean, who's that? Don't mean nothing. Billionaires now are like
well, they are doing a lot of rituals because it is a ritual.
Well, they love it though. They need excitement a lot. I mean, look at some of these people. They invested in. Look at the guy from Amazon. What a boring life he must have had. Maybe he wants to be a part of all this now. Bill Gates. I mean, look at that guy. You think he had a charming life? I could see all the girls beating down his door to go with him because now he's a billionaire. So they try this. They're experimenting with their money.
But he's probably also a puppet who is also being controlled by this secret elite behind the scenes.
Oh, I think they set him up like they did so many people early on, and they have what they need on him. So he's going to listen and contribute.
Absolutely. And
I'm still wondering what they have on Dr. Fucci, though.
Please, I mean, and he has been working under.
This guy just keeps lying. My God.
You mean Dr. F, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has been in his position under what, 6 presidents?
Yeah.
Hello, and still running the
lies and been proven wrong, and nothing's ever done with him.
Exactly. I mean, this is it, and that's why it's an absolute scam and a scamdemic that we are being part of. That we are being controlled.
Well, we as Americans, I think, have the worst of it.
We have the same thing here. It's absolute. This is globalization. This is the new world order. This is happening everywhere. This is they are trying,
That's
and
why I'm so diversified. I'm not jumping in.
No. You are quite fortunate, but most people aren't. So they're being controlled, and they're quite gullible, and they are being indoctrinated by the media and the politicians with lies, and they believe, of course, the fear propaganda. You also knew and met some presidents. You also knew Nancy Reagan, didn't you?
Oh my God, what a joke she was.
Can you please elaborate?
Nancy Reagan was nothing. I mean, Ronald Reagan was controlled by the mob. Hello. The Jewish mob. Lou Wasserman and all them. They controlled him. They put him in office. Isn't it funny? No one yet, and I always find this interesting. And once I bring it up, then people say, oh, yeah, that did happen. Frank Sinatra was a Democrat and supported the Kennedys to get in and all that. When he was asked to support a Republican called Ronald Reagan, hello.
Yeah, but the party lines doesn't matter. It's just a big reality show for people.
The control.
For control, to think so that people, the gullible population, think that they actually have a choice.
They have a say. Yeah.
That's what is happening right now. It's on a massive scale, and people still believe it. I mean, it's incredible.
I'm interesting to see now, just because I'm so involved directly and indirectly with this Bitcoin and all this cyber stuff. Who is real? I'm never going to buy into that. I mean, they're trying to create, we don't use money anymore.
That they want a cashless society so that they can they can implement the Chinese model.
Yeah.
With social credit, and then they can just turn it off, and then you have zero on your bank account, even though you have everything. And then they can track you and your medical history and everything. Everything is about surveillance and that you have no privacy. And that's what they want to do with the Great Reset. This Klaus Schwab, this horrible emperor-like from Star Wars character who says that by 2030, we will own nothing and we will be very happy.
Well, they said that in the Bible too. Follow God, give up all your wealth. Not everybody bought into that either. So
no, and we shouldn't buy into it now, should we? But I mean, what was your experiences with Nancy Reagan?
Oh, mine were ridiculous. I mean, because I thought she was ridiculous. I mean, I didn't care about her at all. In fact, there's a couple of mentions of it even when she was first lady of California. Who cared? I know how she got it and why they wanted him in there, and then to move him to the White House. And they did all of that. I mean, mine is such a trivial story, and it has to do with Tony Curtis, which was funny because we just finished doing a movie called Lepke, Lepke. He played Louis Buchalter. I played Albert Anastasia. And my friend, who was called Mr. Fix-It, I'm in his book, a great book actually too, Sidney Korshak. And it's called the Outfit, Super Mob. And he owned a place I used to love to go to, the Bistro Gardens in Beverly Hills. So he owned it. He said, anytime he goes, I don't pay, I don't do this, I don't do that. So one night I was always at his table, and Nancy Reagan came in with her entourage while she was the first lady of California. And I could see her whispering and looking over to me. I didn't have even said hello to the lady. To me, she was a bad actress, a bad wife. Nothing impressed me about her, period. So next, Casper, the maitre d', comes to me and says, Mr. Russo, the first lady, Miss Reagan, always sits at Mr. Korshak's table. I said, great, when I'm done, she can have the table. He said, well, we were thinking of moving you over. I said, you're thinking wrong. I ain't moving. He said, well, she's the first lady. I said, I don't live here. I live in New York. So he goes back and tells her. Next, Korshak calls. They bring me the phone, and he says, Mr. Korshak wants to talk to you. He says to me, don't move for that fucking bitch. You're the only one that ever stood up to her. And she's standing there waiting for me to get up. And Jimmy and Kesper said, what did he say? He said, sit where I am. He said, oh, you're going to get us in such trouble. I said, well, move to Nevada.
Really? Wow.
Tony Curtis was doubled up because everybody, who, Nancy Reagan, forget about it.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of incredible stories. You've certainly been around. And I mean, there are so many names that we could still mention, or some of them were in your book.
We could do another 90 minutes. Forget it.
I know, and this is what we actually can do with you, because we can continue. It's fascinating beyond, well, most things that anybody has ever heard.
Well, it's the funniest thing, as my son said to me the other day, my oldest son, he's 59, and he just heard I launched my clothing company, La Cosa Mia by Gianni. So he don't even say hello to me. I don't talk to him that much on the phone to begin with. And he said, "What are you trying to do?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You realize in 14 months, you're going to be 80 years old." I hung up on him. So my 80 years, why I'm bringing it up, I've been on the street since I'm 12. So when you look at that, that's 68 years of great living with all the celebrities, hang out at the Copa when I was 15, meeting all the stars, going to Vegas, traveling the world. So, I mean, and I find it fascinating, even that you wanted me on and wanted me back on. I'm not a major star. I got lucky.
But you certainly have one of the most unusual, fascinating, extraordinary life stories that I think most people have ever heard.
I know, it's so crazy.
And we can really talk for a long time with you, because, you know, the list is endless of all of your experiences. Would you say that if there was a regret that you have, or something you wanted to have done differently in your life, if you could turn back time?
I live every day for the fullest. I review my life numerous times. I even reflected on my life numerous times with Pope John Paul. I wouldn't change one thing. I'm having so much fun even now. I think that's why my attitude, people tell me I don't look like a guy that's, 78 years old. It's my attitude. I don't dress like it. I don't walk like it. I stand erect. I go out. I'm waiting for a car to pick me up now, as you know. I'm going out. I'm not going to have fun. It's just a good time, as usual. If we want to do it again, we'll do it again. There's so much going on in my life that you're going to be hearing about, big things, and I'll come back on and talk.
I think we actually must do that, because there were even a lot of questions from the audience, because we asked them when we premiered our last show if people had some questions for you, and there were quite a few. So I think it would be wonderful at some point to do part 3, because we really can't keep on talking, and people are so fascinated. And also, I want to tell you that if you do actually mean it and would come to Denmark, then we would welcome you, and we could do it face to face.
I don't say anything I don't mean. You should know that by now.
I should know that by now, and I think I know it. And it would be wonderful to have you here face to face.
Find a reason, I'll come. Find a reason, we'll do it.
Definitely, we would want to see you here, and if you can travel, then please do come, and otherwise we would love to have you on again.
All right, please. Thank you, the whole production company, and all your listeners. I feel I'm making new friends in Copenhagen. I love it.
You are, definitely. And I want to thank you so much, Gianni Russo, for being on Age of Truth TV again. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
And remember, we are living in the age of truth.
We are living in the age of truth. This is the age of Aquarius and the age of a new understanding. So it is the age of truth, definitely. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, and you too. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you so much to Gianni Russo for being on Age of Truth once again for this Part 2 interview. And thanks to all of you for watching us. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, ageoftruth.tv as well. Then we can notify you every time we have a new show out. Please also subscribe to our alternative channels on BitChute and Brighteon, where you will find episodes that are no longer on this channel. Please also follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. Your support is greatly appreciated. And on behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.